back. I am Andres Villalba. I'm a sales engineer at Sencha. In this session, we're going to be talking about ChatGPT and how to use it to create Ext JS applications. Then I'm going to show you a few tips and tricks to use ChatGPT for Ext JS. And then we're going to create a simple application by using an existing template, and then we're just gonna build on it. We're gonna have a quick session of questions and answers. Please, if you have any questions, leave them in the question box, and we'll do our best to answer them at the end. Before we start, please take in mind we need to download Sencha command if we're using the trial version. If we're using the commercial version, we need the XJS SDK, and also we need a ChatGPT account. It is also important to take in mind that we're going to use ChatGPT 3.5, which means it has been updated on January 2022. And back then, the version that XJS had was 7.3. Also, I want to mention that we're going to be using an Next.js template. However, take in mind that you can use ChatGPT to create an application from scratch. We want to create something a little bit more powerful, so we're going to actually use a template. And also, we have to decide if we're going to use the modern or the classic toolkit. Of course, it depends if the application we are building is for mobile or desktop devices. Right now, I'm going to be using only the classic toolkit. So what can we do with ChatGPT and XGS? We can create data. We can create the screen layout. We can also see how to use MVC and MVVM with XGS. We can create model and store classes from a JSON object. We can also create grids, charts, forms, and other components. But there's something to take in mind. From my own experience, sometimes it creates the wrong namespace. Sometimes it misses the store name. The requires array is almost always incomplete. So even if ChatGPT creates everything for us, we have to make sure that it didn't make any mistakes. I have had it that sometimes it works on the first try, and some other times that I have to generate my code 5 times or fix it myself. So, like I was saying, we need to create our project. We can create it with Sencha command. These 2 lines that I have here do just that. The first one is for the professional or enterprise version, and the second one is for the trial version. So it's quite simple. This is just assuming that you have the SDK on your computer and you have it on the Ext-7.7.0 folder, and your application name is gonna be My App, and it's gonna be on the My App folder. It's the same thing for the trial. However, the trial is gonna get the SDK from the server. So just to show you how the application is built, I'm gonna use a Windows PowerShell, and this is basically the line that I was just showing you. Take in mind that it's gonna take a little while to create your application, which should be fine. And it's a little bit different from what I showed you because I have a different folder for my SDK. So I'm gonna generate a classic app, and I'm gonna call it My App. I'm just gonna leave it running on the background. It'll take a while, and if it doesn't finish fast enough, what I'll do is that I have another application ready to work on. Okay, so the first example we're gonna build with ChatGPT, it's an actual pie chart. But to do this, first what we're gonna do is create the data. So let's go in and let's ask ChatGPT to create some data for us. So let's say create a JSON string with fake software sales for last year. Include 20 registers and include the following fields: ID, software name, publisher, sales quantity, and let's say total sales. It's gonna take a few seconds. Once it's ready, I'm gonna go into my project and take this file. Okay, now that we have our data here, I'm gonna ask ChatGPT how to create a store and a model with XJS and this data. So how do you define a store and a model class in XJS for the previous JSON file? So as you can see, what it did, It created a model class and it actually created the fields here. And the actual store, what it's doing right now, what it created, data that comes from memory. So it's thinking of grabbing that JSON data, putting it here, meaning it's going to be hard coded. And I don't want that. So I can actually go in and ask ChatGPT to correct this. Create previous store class, actually define, but connect to an endpoint, data dash sales.json. So now what it did, it changed the store for something a little bit more useful. I am connecting to an endpoint. So with this, I can go into my project and create the connection to the backend. Right now, as you can see, we're connecting to a JSON file. That's not the case for our projects. We usually connect to any backend. XJS is a backend agnostic, so I can connect to anything that I created, maybe with RAD server, PHP, C Sharp, any backend that we want to use, we can connect to it. Let's see if our project is now ready, if it's still working. And as you can see, it is ready. So I'm just gonna go ahead and open it with Microsoft Code. As you can see, I already have it open. And when I create a template, it usually has an app folder, a build folder, ext folder, this is our SDK, and it has resources. Right now, it's not gonna work just like this. I have to build the application. Also, if I'm gonna be using charts with XJS, I have to specify that on my app.json. So it's really easy. I just look for the requires key and in there I'll just type charts. Once I do that, I need to refresh my application. I can do this here with a new terminal window. All I have to do is Sencha app refresh. What this command does, it goes into the app JSON, builds the application again. Okay, now that's ready. If I want to test my application, I can set up a web server. But the best idea is to use Sencha App Watch, which will be running in the background. If it finds any changes that I do to my project, it's just gonna rebuild the application. And right now, this is gonna be rebuilding it on development. So let's go back to our browser and I'm just gonna load localhost with the port 1841, and that's our application. This is the application we created. This is the template. Basically, it has one grid and 4 sections. So I can actually go in and change the title and change the sections and everything else. However, right now what I'm gonna do is grab what I got from ChatGPT, and I will include this into my project. So I'm gonna copy the JSON data. Back in my project, I'm gonna create a new folder, which I'm just gonna call data. I'm gonna create a new file. I will call it sales.json. Here I'm gonna paste what ChatGPT created. However, it created an array, and it's a better idea to include this inside of an actual object. So I'm just gonna say data, and I'm gonna take the array there. And also XJS likes to know if the call was a success. And if this was a real backend, meaning maybe C Sharp or RAD server, it will return to me how many registers I'm looking at. This will be used for paging. Now I'm gonna go into my app folder. I have different folders. View, of course, this is where my main views are gonna be created. Store, this is where I connect to the backend. And model, it's where I define how the data is gonna be treated. So I'm gonna create the store first. I'm gonna call it sales data.js. And once again, I'm gonna go into my project and I'm gonna grab this code here. And I have to apply a few fixes. Sometimes when we ask ChatGPT to create our code, it may do it with a create method. This is creating an object. I want to define a class, like I said before. The other thing that I need to change is the class name must match the folder structure and my file name. So instead of software store, should be my app, since that's the name of my application. Then it has to be store and then sales data. I am extending from this class, which is fine. Then we're calling this model, and then the proxy is what it's going to load the data. So it's going to look for data slash sales JSON, which is what I have here. I'm going to add another slash at the beginning so that it looks for it on the root of the project. Okay, so far so good. Also, there's something missing there. I need to add an alias. This will help me out when I'm linking the store to my grid or to my chart. I have to call it store dot a name, any name I want. So I'm just gonna call it sales data like that. It doesn't have to match the class name. Okay, now I'm gonna create the model. I'm gonna call it also sales data.js. And going back to ChatGPT, I'm gonna grab that model from here. Let's put it there. Once again, same idea. It has to include the name of my application, then the folders, and at the end, the file name. Here in the model key inside sales data store, I have to use the full model name. I'm going to create a new view here. Let's just say new folder. And I'm just gonna call it sales. I'm gonna create a dashboard.js. Right now, this is an empty file, but that's the one I'm gonna be creating as our first example. So let's go back to ChatGPT. Okay, now that we have our data and the store and model, what we're gonna do next is create our dashboard. So first thing that I'm gonna do is go into my project and create the dashboard file. I have already done so, which is under view, sales, and dashboard. And now I'm gonna go into ChatGPT and I'm gonna ask it to define a class for the dashboard. So I'm just gonna say define an Ext JS class for a panel that includes two soft panels using a VBox layout. This is all we need, so I'm just gonna go copy. I'm gonna go paste it here. There are a few things that I have to take in mind. One, it has to match my folder structure. So it's my app, view, sales, dashboard. It's gonna extend from panel, which is fine. The X type, this name I will need to call it from the menu. So I'm just gonna call it dashboard view. This is the actual layout, that's fine. And these are the two sub panels. I'm gonna put some charts in there in a few minutes. Now I have to go into my main file and do a few things. First, I have to add the dashboard into my requires array. So this name, let's copy it and let's paste it here. Gonna go down all the way into the menu. It's these items that are here. Those are the 4 options that we have on the actual application. So those 4, I'm gonna take all of them out and I'm gonna replace them by a new one. So let's take those 4 out. The home option, instead of calling the actual original list, what I'm gonna call is dashboard view. I'm gonna call it dashboard instead of home. How this works, it's we got items. The first item, it's the actual tab name, and it has an items array. Inside of it, we have the contents. So let's bring it back. Let's refresh. And there it is. We have 2 different panels. And to make them look a little bit better, I'm gonna say that they should occupy the whole screen. And I do that by adding another layout, but yet to the actual tab. So here I'm just gonna say layout fit. If I try that, once I refresh, now I have the 2 panels, one stacked over the other. If I don't want them to be one on top of the other, I can change VBox into HBox. We try it again. Then now we have one on the other side. And now let's go back into ChatGPT Okay, and now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna ask it to create a pie chart based on that JSON file. So let's say create an XJS pie chart by using the previous store and use software name and sales quantity. And let's go all the way to the bottom. As you can see, it is creating that pie chart. It is inside a panel. So let's just actually copy again. And I can put it in here. However, for that, I need to do it a little bit different. So instead of doing it that way, what I'm going to do is create two charts in different files. So I'm just going to say dashboard. I'm going to say py.js. Going to paste. So this is going to be my app, view, sales, dashboard, py. It is extending from panel, which is fine. It's got an X type. I'm going to call it dashboard py. Everything else seems fine with the exception of the store, because this is using the other name. And if you remember, what I used actually for the store name was this full name. So I have two options. I can copy this name and leave it like it is, like that, or I can also use the other annotation, which is basically just saying type and using the other name, which is sales data. I need to grab this name, take it into my dashboard, and add a requires array and include that file. And now instead of having this panel here, what I'm gonna do is grab this other one. So I'm gonna use this X type instead of panel. I'm gonna put it there. Okay, we're almost done with the chart. However, I just want to mention that there are a few things that it created incorrectly. One of them is that X type shouldn't be chart, it should be polar. The other one that it's important, it's also that if we go to the store, if we check the root property, it's using a different one. So we need to type this so that we make sure that when the JSON file is loaded, that actually loads the data key. If we do this, we can see that right now we have both panels with the same chart, but we can go in and change a few things. So if I go to the dashboard, I'm gonna take that out and I'm gonna add a style. And here, what I'm gonna do is take out that border, which is basically just stroke style. I can give it any color I want. I'm just gonna say transparent. And if I want to change the color, all I have to do is add a theme to the actual polar item. Take in mind though that I need to add something to the requires array. So let's say if I use sky colors, I have to add a requires array over here. And I need to include the Ext chart theme and the theme I want to use, for example, sky, or I can just add a wildcard to include all the themes. And if we do so, now we can see how it looks. I didn't choose any nice colors, but it's just an example. I'm just going to change it to blue. And I am also going to add an inset padding, let's say 48 pixels. And now we check it again. It added a margin around it and it looks a lot better. So for the second one, I'm gonna use ChatGPT again and I'm gonna just create a basic bar chart. Define a new chart. This time make it a bar chart with the same data. And here it goes. It is creating the chart I need. Once again, I see a couple of things that I may have to change. Let's copy it and let's try again. So I'm just gonna add here a new file. I'm gonna call it dashboard bar.js. Gonna paste. Same deal. My app view sales dashboard bar. Gonna call it dashboard bar. And as we're about to find out, it won't like it if I call the chart here. It should be something else. It should actually be Cartesian. And I need the same store, so I'm just gonna grab it from the other one. And to make it load in the dashboard, instead of loading dashboard by for the second chart, I'm gonna load dashboard bar, and I need to include it in the requires array. And now this is what we have. So I have a basic dashboard. It doesn't look really nice, but it's a good start. Of course, I can rotate the titles, I can shorten them, I can also make these interactive. But for now, this is a good start. And basically, ChatGPT created 90% of what I needed. Now I'm gonna create a new tab, and inside of that one, I'm gonna add a grid with all the data from that JSON. So I'm gonna create that file. I'm gonna call it grid data.js, and I'm gonna go back to ChatGPT. And here I'm just gonna say, using the original JSON, create an XJS grid. Using the previous JSON string, create an XJS, define an XJS grid. It is working, but it tried to load the data hard-coded into the store. That's not what we want. So gonna say define the previous grid again, but use the previously defined store. So this time around, it is using this store instead of just putting it hard coded there. As you can see, it is quite simple. So let's just copy, just paste, same deal. So it's gonna be my app view sales grid data. Have to give it a name. I'm gonna call it yeah, software grid works fine. I can leave it with Ext create, but as you know, it's better to just use type and the same store. And also what I'm gonna do is go into my main file and add that option. So let's copy, let's paste. I'm gonna call it data grid. And instead of a dashboard view, that's gonna be grid data. Gotta make sure that it's the same name over here. Before I forget, make sure that's on your requires array in the main view too. So my app view sales grid data. If everything is correct and I go into the data grid, you can see we have the data in a nice grid. And by default, as you can see, XJS adds the option to sort by any column. It also adds the option to reorder the columns. If we want to do something else, if we want to filter, we can do it. But for now, this is what I wanted to show you. To finalize this example, what I'm gonna do is also, I'm gonna ask it to create a form for the previous data. So define a form that allows to edit the previous fields. This is not gonna have the real functionality because I need a real endpoint on the backend. But for now, this should be more than enough. So let's just copy again. Let's go into our code. I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it sales form.js space my app view sales form. It's going to be a panel. It also needs an Ext type. It has a title. And the default type, it's going to repeat in all the fields. Body padding is fine. These are the fields that I previously defined. And at the end, it's going to add some buttons, one for save, which it's just going to pretend that it's being saved, and it's going to validate the form. And it's also going to add a reset button. So let's go back to main. Let's include the form. Let's use the Ext type, actually with a dash there. And let's add that option at the end. So sales form, sample form. Of course, in reality, this would be part of the data grid. I just wanted to show you something really fast. We don't have enough time to show you a lot more. So we check it out. We have the dashboard, we have a data grid, and we have a sample form. The ID is locked. That's why I cannot capture anything there. If I click on save, it's going to pretend that the form has been saved. And if I click on reset, everything is going to reset. So that's just a basic introduction of what we can do with ChatGPT and XJS. There's a lot more. Of course, we can also integrate ChatGPT into XJS, but that's not a topic for this webinar. Hopefully you enjoyed this webinar, and let's proceed to our question and answer session.
Excellent. Oh, thank you, Andres. That was pretty cool. I think it always amazes me seeing how quick and easy taking the power of a framework like Ext JS is, where you've got these components and a lot of the pre-plumbing and the integration work is already done for you, and then being able to use the power of something like ChatGPT just to say, hey, give me this and give me that, bring those bits together, because all the other plumbing work is already done. It's very easy for something like ChatGPT just to be able to give you back something that is joined up in a simple way, that's totally cool to see. So we've got a few questions that are coming through here. First question here from Oscar is, how is Copilot compared to ChatGPT?
Okay, thank you, Steven. Yeah, there's a big difference, mainly because Copilot is using it's using GPT-4, which means it is more up to date. However, for this example, I chose ChatGPT 3.5 just because it's more used around and more known. I haven't actually tried it with Ext JS, so I cannot tell you exactly what the advantages are, apart from it being more up to date.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah, it's great to be able to kind of get this stuff automated through and to use things like ChatGPT. I think one of the other things also to remember is things like the kitchen sink and the other tools that we have on the website are very useful for being able to look at the components and kind of quickly play and then be able to copy the code that you need across as well. So there's multiple options. I think ChatGPT just makes things a lot quicker and easier as well. So.
Yeah, and something I didn't do here is that grab the code that was generated incorrectly and ask it to fix it. But I have done that, and same thing. Sometimes it fixes it the first time. Sometimes it takes a couple of more tries. But you can also use it to fix your code. So that's quite a powerful tool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually amazing. We did a developer survey recently on one of the other products within the IDEA group, and asked developers, who's using ChatGPT and what you're using it for. And a lot of developers now beginning to use it just to help with some of that prototyping and the grunt work that you know what to do and you can describe very quickly and easily, just as you've shown, to be able to put something together to get a quick prototype done. And so, yeah, it's great to be able to see how to do that with Sencha, which is pretty cool. Okay. There's a question here about the legalities of using ChatGPT to generate code. Can you, what can you use and can't use? So anything you want to mention on that area?
Yeah, well, there are a few things to take in mind. Last time we talked about this, somebody asked this very same question. And the thing is ownership. If we generate our whole application, which we didn't do here, ChatGPT is gonna grab code from different sources, and then there's probably and quite likely gonna be a legal issue. However, what we were doing today, it's just generating small snippets of code, which are the basis for our project. So, of course, I would check with my legal department at my company before I put it out. But usually it's something so simple, so small, that it's actually what I would have generated by myself, or just by looking at examples like you were saying at the kitchen sink or things like that. However, more focused on my own project. And the other thing is the data. At the beginning, I generated sample data. Of course, I use that just for teaching purposes. I wouldn't use it for a real project because then I am using data from another source. So that one for sure will get me in trouble. But what I'm generating for Ext, as long as it's just snippets of code, it should be fine. But I would check with my legal department though, just in case. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. John here has mentioned that you've used the examples that you showed use the Ext JS Classic toolkit. Can you use it with the modern toolkit as well?
Yeah. 90% of the time that I tried using ChatGPT, I didn't specify classic or modern, and it just went straight to classic. But if you don't specify it, sometimes it's gonna generate in modern, and that's gonna cause an issue in what you're working. Some classes are named different between toolkits. However, if you just specify, instead of saying define a class, just don't specify a toolkit, just go ahead and say define a class on the modern toolkit of Ext JS, and then ask ChatGPT to create the class. So just make sure to tell ChatGPT as much as you can. And if it generates it in classic, you can always say, please generate the previous class, but now do it with the modern toolkit. And it works quite nicely. I didn't have the chance to show it, but I have done that.
Yeah, I've been through a similar thing with a Java application. Actually, I did some work on, and I said, hey, this is great, but I don't want to use this library that you're connecting up to. Can you use this one from Apache instead? And it's like, oh yeah, sure. Here's the same thing, but with a different library. So it's, yeah, I think the context awareness of ChatGPT is pretty cool. As you say, if you kind of get the question most of the way there, sometimes you need to read it, review it, and go, no, hey, try again. It's like talking to a junior developer sometimes, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and this time what I did is I took the time to actually go in and fix directly on Microsoft Code, but I usually do just that. No, you don't know what, I didn't like what you created, so let's just try it again. But if I did that, it could have lasted a lot less, this presentation, or a lot more, depending on what it was creating.
Yeah, I must admit, one of the things that I've played around with a couple of times. I've copied a method that I've been writing into ChatGPT and said, hey, using this method and these input values, please confirm the output values, and use it as a way to do a quick sanity check against something ahead of kind of getting full unit testing and everything implemented through. It's quite a useful tool to be able to use in that regards as well, which is kind of nice.
Yes. Go ahead. Sorry.
So I think you've inspired Oscar. He's off to go and have a play with both ChatGPT and Copilot. It seems so happy playing, Oscar. I hope you have some fun with that. Ronald's put, very new to ChatGPT. How does it handle input in different languages?
Well, I have only tried it in English and Spanish, and both cases it works perfectly for me. So I can speak about those two languages. I cannot talk about any other one. But if it's working in Spanish, I think it should be working in at least French and similar languages. So yeah, I've actually used ChatGPT for teaching and showing it to my students. I don't mean preparing my class, and showing it just like I did right now, and I have done it in Spanish, and it creates everything without a problem. Well, just like in English.
Oh, it would be great to know, Ronald, which languages you're looking to have a play with it in. That's obviously the next question that I've got for you. So please do let us know. Is it possible to build something similar to an ASP.NET web pages using Razor syntax in C# and the Ext JS exporter 7.20 package? It's a bit of a random question, I guess, but yeah.
Yeah, I think this is outside of my field of knowledge.
Okay.
Although I know some C#, I cannot. I'm not an expert, so yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
I think the Razor, from what I remember, is a templating engine. So yeah. I think Donald, if you want to kind of connect up with us, we can have a chat offline on what you're actually looking to try and achieve and help advise in the right direction for you. Daniel really enjoyed this presentation. Great use of ChatGPT. Asked if the author can give ChatGPT the namespace / path for a new file. I don't think it'll create the file for you, but you can certainly go ahead and.
Yes, I mean the namespace you can specify it, but with my luck that I've been having, it sometimes ignores it. It just goes straight to the code and ignores the namespace. This time when I was preparing my presentation and I was presenting it, the actual class name was just being created with one simple name, but that just happened this time. Every single time that I have used ChatGPT before, it usually creates a class name with some name like myapp.view.class name, for example. So it's easier to fix and just put it there. So it was just this one time in the case of class name, and in case of namespace, it usually ignores it. But something that I want to mention though that it's really cool, it's to use it as a learning tool. I have also used it for students. Just ask it, for example, what's the difference about using a MVC and MVVM with Ext? And it goes ahead and it explains everything and tells you there's binding, there's a model view and view model or a controller and so on and so forth. And you get a great idea. So if you're used to one way of working or the other, it explains it. As you can see this time around, when I asked ChatGPT to create classes, it created almost everything in MVC. And I'm guessing that's because most documentation and things you look online are MVC, although we have a lot of support for our MVVM and a lot of great projects are done that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. I was actually going to say here, we've got a comment from, I think it's Jess or Jessie Bryn, who has been saying, I've been using ChatGPT to write code for version 3.x of Ext JS. Okay, firstly, we need to get you updated. But it's aware of the differences, which is fantastic. Yeah, it is very smart in terms of being able to help notation things. So I guess probably the next project will be to help migrate your code forward from 3.x up to 7, so we can get you kind of all the latest security updates and all the other kind of great stuff that's in 7. So sounds like definitely a great project ahead of you.
Yeah.
I think we kind of covered a little bit. There's a question here about how does this compare with the other AI tools like GitHub Copilot, Tab9, etc. I guess we haven't had the chance to play with all of them. I think is it just the one that you've had a chance to play with so far, Andres?
Yeah, and I mean, finally, it's the one we chose. But if Copilot is using GPT-4, then it's gonna be more up to date. I don't know about Tab9. I would have to check that out. But of course, this is just a tool. There are different options, and yeah, maybe for a follow-up webinar, we can go in and do just that. Try all 3 of those: Copilot, Tab9, and ChatGPT, and see the results.
Yeah, obviously, if you're playing around with others, then please, do come back to us and let us know what you're playing with. And if you want to do a skill sprint, one of the things we're looking forward to doing more of in the coming year is developer skill sprints where we can share things like this in a quick 15-20 minute type of session. So if you have got an example you want to show them, please get in contact, and we'll be happy to kind of share some of that with you. Yeah, a couple of comments saying great session, really useful. So saying this has been really useful for him. So yeah, so that's great. I'm not quite sure what this question means, but it says, how about painter job? Does that make sense to you?
It doesn't ring a bell for me.
No.
If they mean theming, yeah, you can ask ChatGPT about themes. But I would rather just go into our tool, which is Sencha Themer, and just do it there. It'll be easier and faster. I don't know if that's what they are referring to.
Okay, yeah, it could well be. Kashindra, if you want to kind of rephrase your question, please go ahead and post it in, and we can have another stat. Okay, let's another scan down here. Can I use ChatGPT to generate a full web application?
A web app application? A full web app
Yeah,
application.
like
Okay,
a full web
yeah.
app.
Not the version I just used. ChatGPT 3.5 is not gonna generate the full application. I mean, if you go into ChatGPT 4 and just go ahead and pay for it, it should work fine. It should create a full application, but I mean, in that case, the legality is gonna be a lot more complicated, because now it is gonna grab somebody else's template and create something. So you can use it. I wouldn't recommend it. What I would do is what I did in this webinar: just create the basic project with either of our templates. I showed the more simple one, but we have the other templates that have a lot more things built in, and just go in and then ask ChatGPT to create everything for that template. So something I did right now is that I asked every prompt separate, but I have also done everything in one go. I have gone in and asked ChatGPT to just create the whole view. What I mean by that, if I'm using MVC, ask it to create the model, the view, and the controller in one go. And one good thing about that is that for sure they're gonna be linked together, instead of having different prompts and sometimes they don't match correctly as it happened during the presentation. or do the same with MVVM. So even if you can do it in ChatGPT 4, I wouldn't recommend to do it. Go step by step instead of going and doing everything in one step. Just for the legality and for probable bugs that might arise from grabbing code from different sources.
Yeah. Yeah, and that whole kind of thing about testing, you know, it's great to be able to kind of build your code up and test things through. And if you're wanting to kind of have a quick check of something before you kind of push it on, it's a great way to be able to use ChatGPT to help you with those quick jobs as well, or even get it to ask it to write the unit test for you. So okay, I think we're pretty much through the core of the questions that have come through around the session. Again, a lot of great feedback around the session. So yeah, thank you very much for that, Andres.
No problem, thank you.
Yeah, that's the great thing of these kind of days is it's about sharing different ways of working, using kind of the tools and the technologies that are out there to help improve what we do on a day-to-day basis as developers. And I think certainly opening up my eyes to how to use ChatGPT to speed up development and to take some of the boring work out of the way, allowing me to focus purely on kind of the customer requirements and kind of getting to the nuts of what I need to get sorted out has been a great thing to kind of cover. And I think you covered that really well in this session. So thank you very much again for that.
No problem. Thank you, Stephen.
A question here from Charlie: did we create the sample code for ChatGPT? No, actually, ChatGPT goes and learns and harvests from all the stuff that's out there. So from all the blog posts and the forum replies and the online documentations. So it goes out and it learns and uses its algorithms to understand everything. So yeah, we haven't had to feed anything into ChatGPT to help get this sample going.
And I have also noticed that it goes into our Sencha fiddle and gets examples from there too. So yeah, it's from our documentation and our fiddle too. But we didn't do it, like you said, it's ChatGPT getting it from everywhere.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so we're going to be around for the next 10 minutes. Another thank you very much.